welcome to Soul Brothers special with my dear friend Eno and myself, Simon, where it is our job to throw you into the Solana rabbit hole and interview exciting guests from the Solana ecosystem.
Our job is to throw you into the latest and greatest so that you never run out of fun things to talk about. Simon, we have a very, very special guest today. I can see in the background when we were letting the credits roll, I think you were having your morning chicken or eggs. Which one was it?
I'm also equipped here. I have my afternoon cereal bar.
Simon has to have his morning protein.
It is what it is. Actually, it's 5 p.m. So not too much morning over here in this part of the world. But our guest is early Monday morning guest, and actually all our guests are special, right? So we have to say that. But he's extra special. Who do we have on today?
So today we have someone who has been building in the Solana ecosystem for years. He is a chief bread maker, both in the bakery and outside the bakery. He's also been a contributor to the Bonk ecosystem for a number of years. He is now out doing wonderful things with something called X402, which we'll be learning much more about. It's going to absolutely change the way that agents interact with on-chain programs, as well as access high-quality data. It is my pleasure to announce our very good friend, Pontus. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How about yourselves?
Doing very, very well. Are you, whereabouts are you, Pontus?
Calling in from beautiful Manhattan. We're live from New York, as they say.
And that's like probably one of the first questions I want to ask. And Simon, your mic is still muted. So have you baked any bread this morning? What's going on with your bread situation?
I'm currently feeding my starter, so Hermie's growing.
Oh, you have a name? The name for the starter is Hermie?
Yeah. I don't know. It was the first thing that came to mind, and it just kind of stuck. So here we go.
It's very nice.
Can we kind of give a little bit of context to this whole topic? Because I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Crypto is one of those like industries that is 24/7, 365, and I feel like one of the things I've been working in the space for a little over like half a decade at this point. Been in it for longer than that. But one of the things I like really struggled with for a long time was finding like a creative outlet that I could get my hands dirty with, if you will, and just kind of like be tactical or be like tactile. And my sister gave me a sourdough starter for Christmas. And so I just kind of put my mind to it that I was going to bake 52 loaves of bread this year. We're well past that at this point.
Wow.
Having a lot of fun with it. People are buying bread in New York and we're having a good time. So.
Yeah. If you see those sirens in the background, it's because Pontus is true blue New York. You cannot live in New York without the sounds and the smells and the sights. And so obviously another fun fact about you, not that this is the only thing that matters, but obviously is one thing that most people probably know you by, is that you were a contributor to the Bonk ecosystem for 1.5 years. It was just about 1.5 years now, wasn't it?
I think it was just around 1.5. I think the journey started for me like in full earnestness in January of, I guess, like last year. Mm-hmm. That's about right.
Yeah.
But then prior to that, we were doing open source things with Holoplex. So we've been here for a minute.
Right. And we obviously want to talk about Mariana Ventures as well, but like, could you just tell people a little about some of the work that you did over at Bonk?
Yeah. So Bonk obviously has like exploded and grown into something totally unreal. And it's like in every sense of the word. But one of the struggles I think that they faced, and quite frankly, like anyone that grows at the rate that they do faces, is just like keeping up with partners, keeping up with projects, and keeping up with growth. And so shout out to like all the work that Nam and like a bunch of the like early contributors did the first like year, 1 or 2 years with Bonk. But I was kind of asked to come in and put a pulse on kind of the landscape of all the partners in the Bonk ecosystem. Because if you kind of take a step back in time, early on, or like early 2024, Bonk was in a position where it had spent 2 years building a lot of different products. Like Bonk Swap, Bonk AI was coming online, Bonk Rewards, 200 plus games, and DeFi apps, etc. And I think that there was like a really big like recognition amongst a lot of the contributors that if we wanted to like accelerate the adoption of Bonk and kind of put it in a position where like mainstream retail, but also like real brands could interact with it and interface with it in a way that they felt comfortable. There needed to be a lot of like day-to-day work that like was put on the table to make that a possibility. So that's a long way of saying that like I spent really kind of a year and a half doing partnerships and like business development for Bonk. But more specifically, I like to think about it as the perspective of helping organize and like grow the relationships for each of like Bonk's individual products and ecosystem teams.
That's awesome. And obviously you work on, you prior to Bonk, yeah, you worked on Mariana Ventures,
Yeah.
and you continue to work on that. Fun fact: Ponus is actually the name of the Greek Titan before Poseidon, so the original ruler of the seas. And so now, like everything that you do, if you look at your Twitter bio, is like bubbles are my own. And I think even your Twitter handle is classic scuba. Everything
Yeah.
seems to be very like sea themed. But like lore aside, like what exactly is the work that you do over at Mariana Ventures, and like who are some teams that you're like proud to have worked with in the past?
Yeah. So Mariana Ventures really kind of grew out of the time in between like Holoplex shutting down and me trying to like find, I guess, my place within the like Solana and like crypto like industry in a way that like started feeling much more like myself in a way. I feel like I'd spent a lot of time working with the crew over at Holoplex and like had built that brand and realized that like there wasn't anything that like I really spent time hanging my hat on as like a resume. And so Mariana Ventures kind of spun out of like the nautical theme as a way to just kind of have like a studio or like an entity where I could kind of say this is where I'm spending my time and effort to like help ecosystem teams grow. So obviously like the work with Bonk came out of there. Done some like really fun stuff with Baxis as well, which is kind of digitizing and changing the whiskey world or like fine spirits world, if you will. Working with a really fun upstart team called Gumball that's kind of trying to take on Discord in a really meaningful way. And yeah, just having a lot of fun with it, trying to help other founders, other startups, specifically like in Web3, and I guess like now tangentially like AI, grow in meaningful ways.
Pontus, what brought you to where you are now with what you do now? We're going to talk about a bit about your current work, what you're up to these days.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear the story as well there, because something moved you in that direction. You've been obviously working on a lot of exciting things in the past already. There was most likely enough work to do in these corners of the ecosystem, but for some reason you decided to move into this direction now with what you do today. And to introduce this whole topic, what you guys are up to these days, I'd love to understand a little bit more your thought process of, okay, this is what I need to do.
Yeah. I guess like I've really been driven by two like North Stars in terms of like the decisions that I make with regards to like the work that I do within crypto. The first one and the most important one is find people that I care about and that I'm inspired by and follow them to the ends of the earth. The second one is find products or problems that have meaningful downstream impact to consumers. And so if we think about like my time with Holoplex, if we step like way back in the time machine 5 years ago when I joined crypto, um, one, I was incredibly motivated by the team, and we'll get back to that here in a second. But like Alex and the folks that he was putting together are just like a team of killers. And even now, like you have them still contributing to Solana and like building like core infrastructure that makes this lightning fast. And then the second one is like the problem, right? Of like, okay, if for Holoplex it was how do we mainstream crypto, and it was like, all right, well we believe that NFTs are this new like paradigm for entertainment, for ownership, etc. And we felt that like building the rails on top of like what Metaplex had kind of pioneered felt like the right product. Step into like my career at Bonk, similar like two North Stars. One kick-ass team, like I would lay down my life for Nam and company. So felt really like motivated to go and help them in that journey. And two, like Bonk, I think was also kind of having like long-term downstream effects for consumers in that it's Bonk, like the way that I always like talk about Bonk is it's like more so an attention layer than anything else. And if you think about it from the perspective of like what is Bonk's like fundamental role as a token, it's to drive eyeballs to places that matter. And if you have a team that really cares about an ecosystem and about technology, then Bonk's mission is to drive as many eyeballs to as many different products, as many different corners of the ecosystem that matter and like shift the needle in like a positive way. And I think that like everything you're seeing manifests itself with like the ETPs, the ETFs is like it is like secondary in my mind to like the cultural impact that like Bonk has, not just for Solana, but for like other like ecosystems in crypto and like in the real world. And so the way that I ended up kind of where I am now is I've been really kind of like playing games with myself about like what is the next big consumer app in crypto. And I think like for me, like the North Star there is like my mom needs to be able to use it. And it needs to not like, it doesn't matter if it feels like crypto, but it needs to be something that like the rest of the world is going to try and like imitate. And they're going to fundamentally fail to do so because they don't understand how the crypto rails behind it work. And so like from that perspective, Moonwalk, which is like having an exciting week. It is like all over the time like now, and as a Bonk product, is like a really like good example of that, right? It's a consumer product that like my mom can understand. Go out and walk, and like you'll get rewarded. But if someone were to like try and recreate that app without crypto rails, they're not going to get very far because the like mechanisms for the games and the like the reward mechanisms just kind of like fall apart pretty quickly. And so Alex called me, my like old boss at Holoplex, and our CEO at Corbit's a few months ago, and was really excited and fired up after having talked with the team over at Coinbase about this new protocol that they'd rolled out, that they were rolling out called X402. And without like getting into the weeds immediately about it, the reason why it was exciting is because one, like I love Alex, and again, like think that he surrounds himself with incredible builders, which is true at Corbit's. But two, what X402 is trying to unlock for agentic commerce, which is just simply put like a future in where AI agents are doing things for us, and more importantly, like buying things. felt incredibly like timely and incredibly exciting, just based off of like those metric or those like two North Stars that I've like been chasing for the last 5 years.
Yeah, actually, we're going to make you stop right there because you're jumping right into the weeds, and we want to get a little bit more context here. Who exactly is Alex Faunus?
So Alex Gahaya is a dear friend of mine who has spent really like the last, I would say, like 2 decades just building anything under the sun. His story is really fascinating. He's done a lot of work across crypto. But I think fundamentally, like the thing that excites me the most about him is that he spent a lot of time helping others build companies as well. So he's a mentor, he's a teacher for the like communities that he finds himself in, for the ecosystems he finds himself in. He helped lead us at Holoplex. He kind of was one of the first employees at Orchid, which was doing kind of like decentralized VPN stuff back in like early day crypto. He led a lot of the like validator conversations at the Solana Foundation, as I understand it, and contributes with the Index podcast to hundreds of thousands of listeners. And yeah, just all around great guy. He's getting into jujitsu now, so that's what he's trying to hang his hat on. So if you're out there and you see him at a conference, make sure to hit him up about that.
Don't tackle him. Good to know.
or do.
Yeah. Out here literally kicking ass.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
don't get me started on our CTO. He's literally building a new car from scratch. So there's a fun.
Sounds like a plateful. Sounds like a plateful of stuff. I love the authentic New York vibe as well we have in today's pod, by the way. It's like we get all kinds of sirens in the back.
The city is the main character. We're just trying to find our place.
It's amazing. Yeah, guys, New York. Okay, let's zoom a little bit more in, Eno, shall we? Into
100%.
What's actually happening at Corbit's and what you guys are about. Because I'm definitely only scratching the surface with what I know. I see you work with a lot of RPC kind of companies out there. There's a bit of Helios, a bit of Triton kind of collabs going on, if I'm not mistaken. So there must be some RPC related work that you do. I know you guys are trying to reinvent the way we pay for API calls, and I think this is probably the best way to start this conversation. Elaborate a little bit, Pontus. Tell us what you guys are about at Corbit's and why you think that this is actually, as you stated in your intro to the topic, or this could be a fundamental part of the next era of the internet.
Yeah. So simply put, at Corbit's, we're building the future of agentic commerce. And I think the inspiration for that has certainly been all the fun we've personally had playing with AI tools over the last 2 years, but also because of a lot of like work that some incredible individuals are doing across the I would say like enterprise landscape. You don't have just Coinbase throwing their hat in the ring, but you also have like Google, Stripe are getting into it. OpenAI is poised to have a really big week with a couple of like new product announcements. So it feels like everyone that I know of, whether they're in crypto or not, is playing with AI tooling. And we're simply trying to make that experience better. And we're doing it through the lens of kind of the picks and shovels of, if you will, of it. So there are, I think, like two things probably to unpack. It's like one is what is X402, and like what does it mean to agentic commerce in general, and then the second piece is probably like what is Corbit's and like what is our approach to that and how is that different?
Yeah, I think because The way I understand, like you said, simply put, we're building, the software for the agentic commerce. And I'm like, that is not simple.
Yeah.
A lot of people do
No.
not know what that means.
Yeah.
It's a nice sentence though. But
Yeah.
maybe we need to. I'd love to just double click on that before we actually go into the products and into Corbett.
Yeah.
Like what do I tell my mom? Like what the heck did we talk
Yeah.
about here in this podcast? When it comes to
Totally.
the agentic commerce and the toolkits for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I guess we can just like briefly or try and simplify what agentic commerce like actually means. So I think we're all kind of familiar baseline with like what an AI agent is, right? It's some piece of software that is making decisions based off of parameters to go and do something. In the simplest form, it's me asking my phone, hey, what is the weather in New York and like today, and what should I wear, right? And it's going and using all these different data points to make that decision. On a more complicated side, it might be, hey, I need you to rebalance my like crypto portfolio and to do it based off of several different factors, right? Like Pentagon Pizza Twitter account being like one of the sources of information that we want to use. So everyone will have agents doing something for them, right? That is the agentic part of the conversation. Commerce is the second, and commerce is simply like buying, selling goods and services. And so in both of those examples, whether it's rebalancing your portfolio or whether it's the weather, or hell, even ordering like groceries for you, some form of commerce has to happen. And in a world where there are a bunch of agents interacting and talking with one another, they need to be able to buy, sell, and trade things between each other. And right now, that commerce piece is incredibly difficult for a whole load of reasons.
Okay, that makes sense. But Corbett is not building AI models. Like you're not building agents and so on. You're not in that part of the stack. In what part of the stack are you?
So we're really focusing on the payments protocol piece. Or like really like the framework for payments.
I guess that's where
So
crypto comes in, if I'm not mistaken. That's
yes,
probably
yeah,
where crypto ties. Okay.
yeah, and I think like the important thing too is like we find ourselves in an industry that's like let's crypto everything, right? And in many ways, we found over the last 5 years that like crypto probably isn't the solution for everything. And everyone, whether they're like an investor or even like a participant, try and find things that like crypto solves like real world pains for. And like we're all like sitting in different parts of the world, and we're like fairly well traveled, and have family and friends that live everywhere. And one of like the clearest examples of like what has crypto solved, I think, is, and what everyone's like favorite topic right now is stable coins, right? The ability to transmit money worldwide instantaneously without like needing to wait 2 to 7 days and pay an exorbitant amount of fees. Similarly, like that's a problem. Like that's the solve, right? Like that's why crypto is better than our current system. That doesn't mean that like the current system fails at helping us transmit money. It's just it's slower and more cumbersome. So similarly, like when we look at like agentic commerce, current payment systems can work, right? Like people are building applications now, agents are paying for things, and like we have credits, and like all this stuff exists. The issue is that there are like when we think about an open internet where agents are going and like making things and like using tools from every piece of it, traditional payment systems fail pretty quickly, and they fail really for like I would say three fundamental reasons. One is that agents, the current financial system doesn't understand what an agent is in the same way that it understands what a human is, right? Like my ChatGPT agent doesn't have a social security number. And because of that, like Bank of America will refuse to give it a checking account, If you don't have a checking account, then you can't buy credits and you can't fund things. And as of right now, like the way that we're kind of solving for that, right, as like people is, well, we just say, okay, well, we're just going to give our agent our credit card information or our bank account information, and it can go and do these things on our behalf. Which, like, let's forget about the idea, like forget about like the scary like idea of it's like liquidating my 401k and just buying a bunch of like Pokemon cards instead, because that's like the sound financial advice I got from Grok.
Or just mass manufacturing a bunch of paper clips.
Yeah, exactly, right. And just like accept that it can spend our money and we will put guardrails in. The issue is that like credit card issuers aren't fond of you giving your credit card to other people to use it, right? And so in reality, like AI agents with your credit card will be shut down, like, or should be shut down. It's just not really a matter of like if, but rather when. The second thing is that the current financial system is really bad at micropayments. If you go into a coffee shop and you spend $2 on a coffee, or $7 here in New York, that's fine, right? Like we kind of understand like the POS systems that people are using, like whether that's Toast or Stripe, like are okay with processing like a $2 transaction or a $5 transaction. But we've all kind of been at like a music festival or something, or even at a bar where it's like there's a minimum $10 or $20 like spend. And the reason for that is that any transaction underneath that just isn't financially viable for the network or for the like institution, whether that's it's that like local watering hole, or your music festival, to like actually pay for the fees to do this. And agents aren't trying to buy things that are worth $1 or $5. They're not really like trying to buy things that are worth $10,000 either. They're trying to buy things like data calls, like what is the weather? They're trying to buy that information that is priced at like a tenth of a cent or a hundredth of a cent. And if the financial system, like the payment rails, can't handle that, the question is, all right, how do we? Well, the way that we do it now is you go and you buy $10 worth of credits with ChatGPT or with Lovable, and in the back end they measure it based off of like whatever your micropayments are and ding your account, and then they ask you to top up for $10. But we live in a world where like we want on-demand real-time information from the best source at any given time. And I don't want to have $10 sitting on a ChatGPT account when maybe Grok is giving me the best real-time information.
But Panis, I would love to open 50 different accounts from 50 different data sources and then park $10 in each. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah. It sounds wonderful, right? And anyone that's built with any of these AI tools knows the pain of like going in and putting in their API keys for every single platform, every single time, topping up $10. Like it just doesn't scale. So microtransactions are important because you need to be able to pay on demand for the service and data that you want in real time. And then the third piece, which I think is like less important, but it opens up a world of like, it changes the dynamic of the world, is like this idea of like instant finality of payments. And so instead of like, if you buy a loaf of bread from me and I take payment from you, and it takes me 2 days to like make the bread and send it to you, and during that time you say, well, actually I'm going to tell my credit card company to charge me back for this purchase, I can kind of stop making that bread or like find someone else to buy it, and we're kind of like fine, right? Because you haven't consumed that loaf. But when it comes to data, like if I'm giving you weather data or if I'm giving you market data, that's something that you're consuming almost immediately. And as a provider, I'm also giving away immediately, right? Like compute is finite and it's immediate. And so to have a world where someone has 1,000 agents doing like high frequency trading or whatever it might be, and building up all this credit and like using all these endpoints to build information and context for their trading algorithms, and then come back and say, well, actually, like Amex, I need you to like, this is fraud. Pay me, like, give me back my $2,000 of compute. It kind of like doesn't work for like a future where data is king and like compute is king. So agentic commerce, like in order to function, has to solve for these three pain points: accounts, microtransactions, micropayments, nano payments, if you will, and payment finality. And it turns out like crypto is actually really good at all those things. And that's why it ends up being like a really good solution for this. An agent can spin up 100 wallets and be off to the races without having to ask anyone for a social or whatever. It can send 1 million transactions in seconds, if not minutes, and pay for those like requests, even if they are 100th of a cent or 1,000th of a cent. And the like merchant, the like service provider, can settle those and know that they've been paid.
Right. So really what we're talking about is a shift from the old to the new world, right? So in the old world, you have human developers who create accounts with different services, perhaps load up a credit card or, send a bank transfer to act as credits. And that way you've already created the account. You can do microtransactions. And then what was that third bit? It's the accounts, it's the and then the payment finality, right? And that's on good faith. That's on good faith, right? So like you're assuming that because this person normally there's not KYC with creating an account, but like it's a pain in the ass to continue to create these accounts, and so like we're acting on good faith in this old system, right? In this new system where you don't have like let's say I don't know, like 100 million developers, but now we have 100 billion agents, right? So we're talking about a completely different scale. They obviously would not have the ability to create. I mean, they could create accounts. Service by service, but that is, I'm sure that there's some civil resist, like as agionic development and commerce becomes more of a thing, there will be, I believe, gateways, like at least they'll be gating some access to the services because, that could be very easy to Sybil. And then the ability to microtransact for agents would be difficult because, as you've rightfully pointed out, obviously financial institutions are not very fond of people who are not exactly you, the person who KYC'd or KYB'd for that credit card to pay for those services. And then obviously the payment finality is much better with stablecoins than it would be with credit cards. So in that sense, like that's why, and also. And like there's all kinds of quality of life improvements, especially as it pertains to agents. But it's like no more API keys, right? It's all like, do you have money?
Yeah.
Did you make the call correctly? Okay, we're a go. Yeah. We don't need you to create an account. We don't need you to park a predetermined set amount of money. And we certainly don't need to worry about payment finality because you're paying us the money in exchange for the data, and that exchange is more or less immediate.
Yeah.
And no API keys.
Yeah, and the hassle that comes from that from both sides.
Right.
It's not just you creating an account; it's someone else has to manage that account, right? So like now your account management systems for as of like business can like dramatically decrease too, which is cool.
Every company that is doing some sort of data business and has an API key that it gives it out to its customers can be potentially make use of your technology, I suppose. Is that true or false?
That's true. So if you're listening to this and you either own an API or have an API that you like to use, we can wrap it and so that it accepts crypto.
That is super interesting because like we have an API at Solana ID, and it is sometimes it's a pain in the ass sometimes because you have to every single customer we have, they want to kind of knock on our doors and ask our API for data. They'll have to ask us for an API key, then our devs have to spin one up. So we're building now a dashboard so they can generate their own API key by themselves, at least like the way people do it since a couple of decades, since the internet or APIs have been invented. I think that can be streamlined. Why do we? No, I mean, why Solana is a stupid question. The answer is pretty clear. But we wouldn't be the Sol brothers if we wouldn't talk about Sol a little bit.
Yeah.
Why is this great for Solana, Pontus? Like, where are you guys heading, and why is this going to be good for our bags?
Yeah, I'll say this. It's great for any chain that is capable of handling like tens of hundreds of thousands of transactions happening between billions and billions of agents and accounts. And like I I spent some time like playing paintball growing up. And like if you watch I think the way most people like understand paintball is like we go out into the woods and we like play with our friends. If you ever have like a second, go and look up what like professional like NXL paintball looks like. It is just string like we call them ropes of paint going across like fields, but it's all like 20 to 30 seconds or 20 balls per second of paint just flying across the field. That's like what this looks like. It's the best visual example I have, and not a lot of people even get it, but it makes sense if you see a video. Uh, and so Solana like is very well positioned because it can handle hundreds of thousands of transactions a second, and the like infrastructure for agents is like well underway. That's not to say like other chains aren't also like poised for agentic commerce. We're chain agnostic, and so we're trying to get as many blockchains on board with X402 because the protocol in and of itself is also chain agnostic. But I think you'll end up finding that like a monolithic L1 like Solana is going to do exceptionally well in a world where agents are crawling around and making decisions and buying data and buying compute everywhere.
You actually said the magic word that I've been very curious about. What is the origin of the name, nomenclature, a term X402? Like, why that random collection of X's and numbers? What's going on there?
Yeah, so one of the unique things about X402, as opposed to like other crypto technologies that I think we've seen come up over the last like decade, is that it's piggybacking off of this really old piece of tech that was built into the original like HTTP protocol back in like the old like late 1980s, I think, is when history gets away from me sometimes. But what that means is like every single web server and consequently like browser has the like base understanding of how to respond to a 402 request. And there's some nuances to like turning it on basically, but it's there like everywhere. And that's what makes this like so powerful, is that we kind of the internet as we know it already knows how to interpret these requests.
I see.
And so when you make a request for information, there are a ton of different ways you can do that. But 402, HTTP 402 in particular, is a request for data with a modifier that there's a payment required alongside that request. And so X402, Coinbase's interpretation of this, is exactly that. It is a HTTP 402 request with the like mechanisms for understanding how crypto transactions can occur.
That is so clever. So you're saying that 402 requests are something that the current version of the internet, so that means like literally every browser, most every computer, every call would be able to understand. And it is a payment required error code, which is a non-standard client-side error indicating that the requested content or resources is unavailable and the client makes payment. And then you use that existing rail to make payments for the services rendered, which in this case would be an API that returns back data. Is that just about right?
Yeah. It's like similar if you've ever been to like your favorite website and you click on like some link that's dead and it returns HTTP 404. That's a like request where the data is not available, right?
Right. So in this 402, it's not so much that the data is unavailable, it's just the data is gated. Give me my money, bitch.
Yep, exactly. And so 402 is basically the way to like prove that you have paid, essentially.
Oh yeah, 100%. Wow, dude,
Yeah.
Simon, that's really fucking nifty, man. I love that.
Clever, yeah. Definitely, I can understand why you're excited about it, Pontus. Because I mean, the the majority of the internet runs on API calls. Honestly, like there's so many touch points, shaking hands left and right. So if you can improve that whole dynamic between them, it's a pretty substantial market, I would say. And it's good to see that this happens on Solana as well. That it's a use case for crypto that just, as you said again, like it checks the boxes. Right.
Yep.
Actually, crypto is actually needed here to make that real. What you guys are doing. Okay. Yeah, I think I got it.
What I find Corbett so interesting, though, is that it doesn't even require the agents to be useful, right? Like, let's just assume that, like, you're bearish on agentic commerce and, like, you don't think that agents are going to be, a thing in the next decade, right? Even if that were the case, a flesh and blood developer, a real person, would still find immense value in having, let's say, like a Corbett's account or let's say a Corbett standard, right? That interacts with all the different services that they do. So like, it's not even that you need the agents as a precondition for Corbett's to do well. Certainly, if in a world with agentic commerce, like, this supercharges Corbett's value to the world and like why you would want to use it. But even without that precondition, like, you would still do very well as a business. Like, this seems super interesting.
Yeah, I think businesses, like if we're gonna play like devil's advocate, I think businesses are gonna probably spend like the next 1 to 2 years trying to like rethink their like payment models, frankly. But it's pretty good, I think, for the like end consumer at the end of the day. Even if you're like bearish on agentic commerce, you're probably also bearish on subscriptions, right? And so, like famously, if you've ever tried to like go and read a Bloomberg article because someone in crypto has like linked it to you, you get paywalled almost immediately, and they're like, "Please sign up for a year-long subscription to read this article." And I think everyone would be just love to be able to be like, "Yeah, cool, $5, like let me read this article and move on with my life," or 50 cents or whatever. And that can just be like a 402 request, right? Connect your wallet, pay your 50 cents for the article, and move on.
Yeah, there's a lot of retail use cases here. Like, I mean, quite frankly, I use ChatGPT, but I don't use it enough to justify the monthly cost that I incur.
Yeah.
But like, I still use it, so it's all like they have a gun to my head because it's a very useful tool. But at the same time, like, I'm not using it enough to really feel like I'm getting my whatever. What is it, $50 a month or $60 a month at this point?
Yeah.
Like, I'm definitely not using enough to justify that cost.
Yeah.
But
The one thing while we're like on this though that I want to like hammer home for anyone that's like listening at home and is a developer, that one of the really nifty pieces of X402 is that it enables you to pass on the costs of these API calls to your customer, because all this data is now on demand. So if you're building like an agentic trading bot and you offer trades, like offer to like manage people's portfolios, but you want to provide a service where someone can like add like live news or like real time like market information from say Polymarket or any news source to enhance their like portfolio management system for that moment in time or a period of time, you can actually use X402 to have that customer pay for that enhancement. right?
Yeah.
So like if you can just like you can use this to pass on your ChatGPT, your Claude, your like those API like compute costs to your end customer in real
Hmm.
time.
Hmm. I see. Is there a particular use case with agentic commerce that you feel the most bullish on that is like maybe like closest to adoption today?
I think that this is like the thing that a lot of us struggle with is that the world feels incredibly open in terms of like the possibilities that this could unlock. The question is like what makes sense. And so I'll like asterisk here and say we're not so much focused on finding the next big like application so much as so as we are right now focused on increasing the supply side of APIs and tooling
Hmm.
for developers.
Right.
So like our like focus at Corbits is to enable crypto payments for every API on the planet.
Hmm.
Whether or not people end up using those APIs, I think is like secondary for us. But like we figure if we can increase supply, then like developers will finally have something to like build. Classic chicken and the egg problem. But to like give a real answer to your question, our like Alex has been obsessed with this idea of having an AI agent buy things for him on Amazon. Right? Hey, I'm like going on a camping trip in 3 days with my like wife and two kids. Our pet dog is coming with us, and we may or may not have like um, a set of friends coming in. We want to do s'mores that night or like some fun activity. Buy everything we need. Here's like the budget is $200. um, that is like something that X402 can enable. And so we're actually working right now on I would say it's internal, but we've talked about it in public enough now to where it has a name. We're working on a agent tool called Mallory with the folks over at Dark Research, Edgar and company.
Hmm.
Um, that is going to kind of like showcase what an AI agent using these API X402 API calls can look like.
Simon, didn't we run into that one project that accepts stablecoins and then orders from Amazon on your behalf? Do you remember this vaguely? We covered this a
Yeah,
couple of
Spend.
weeks ago.
Yeah, Spend. Spend is doing that. SP3ND. So
Yeah.
if you look them up on Twitter, you can insert copy paste the URL from Amazon, and then they will handle the payment for you. So you just check out with your wallet.
Yep.
Yeah, that's obviously different from like obviously the architecture is wildly different from what Pontus is talking about. Like what Spend is doing right now feels very much like early days Stripe, where you're filling out a
Yeah.
form to create a bank account, but then it's not like the form goes to the bank; it's like goes to Stripe employees that then create the fucking bank account for you, and obviously have done the process and like have a bank manager that they work with directly to expedite it. But
It's
yeah,
the beginning of
Pontus,
it.
thank you so much for your time today, brother. We really, really appreciate it. Are there any closing words that you'd like to say about Corbits or the work that you're doing? Anything else that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think closing remarks are if you're not looking into X402 at the moment, you should, especially if you're AI or crypto curious. We believe that the more people building with X402 is better for everyone, which is why all of our code is open source. If you go to docs.corbits.dev, you can kind of dive into our partners, the framework that we've built. We're pretty unique in that we've the framework that we have is plugin friendly. So whether it's the client, the server, the middleware, or even the blockchain or the protocol itself, you can plug and play as you wish. So there's no chain, no token, no API that like we can't serve, and no combination that we can't make. So if you're interested in AI or you're interested in crypto, if you own an API or if you're building an agent, reach out to us, and we're happy to get you rocking and rolling.
All right. Well, yeah, go ahead, Simon.
I said, cool. Yeah, thanks, Pontus. Good idea to reach out to the guys. I'll definitely make a note for myself as well. So good that we've met over here on the live stream at Sol Brothers. And obviously, if you guys want to listen to this, you can do that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube. The episode is going to be all over the Sol Brothers accounts. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, well, then you missed the live stream. So make sure to follow us on Twitter as well. Pontus, has been a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for joining the Sol Brothers today. And good luck and much success for Corbit's.
Thanks, y'all. It's been a pleasure.
Love you, Pontus. Talk to you soon. Adios, everybody.
Okay. Cheers.